The Hero and the Hidden by Kitty Quat on AO3. Episode 26. Chapter 23. Blowing through the jasmine in my mind. Izuku gagged, throwing up the ramen that Dabi had given him before. It dribbled on his chin, but didn't touch his skin. He gagged as he spit it out of his mouth. The room spun around him, and his head pounded. God damn it! He heard the pale offender mutter, making him open his eyes slowly. Why did he feel so thick? The two offenders stood in the room, with him sitting in the chair. His hands were bound by cuffs behind his back. He pulled on them, biting his cheek when they cut into his skin like a razor. The missed offender stood behind what looked like a bar, watching as the pale-haired offender ripped his shirt off in disgust. Izuku had gotten vomit all over him. Part of him couldn't help but be proud as the offender fumed. "The hell you do that for?" he screamed at Izuku, looking at him with disgust. Izuku was so tired of the look of disgust and pity he got daily. He shut his eyes, ignoring the man in front of him, trying to get his head to stop pounding. He was in an unfamiliar place with two people, one of whom had a very powerful quirk. Teleportation quirks were rare and generally sought after, though the specifics of this one were interesting. Could he warp anywhere he had seen? Or did he need specific coordinates? What about warping inside a solid object, like a wall? Would that be possible or not? The mist that surrounded him with the pale one fighting Dabi was so interesting. Was his body made of mist? Or did he have a physical form inside? The metal armor would make sense. His head slowly stopped pounding as he thought about a quirk. Such a familiar process that he calmed it. Almost as much as his scratching did. He couldn't reach to scratch, though. "Would you shut up?" the pale offender yelled, chugging a glass at Izuku. It shattered at his feet, making him jump and open his eyes. The room was dimly lit, featuring a modest living area, a large screen TV, and the bar was fancy for the bare space. "I can't even hear myself think over all your stupid muttering," he shouted, scratching at his neck. Izuku stared at the scars that ran along his neck, briefly reminded of his own. He looked down at his mouth, upset to see all he had on were his soaked underwear from the beach. No wonder he had goosebumps on his skin. "Can I get some clothes?" Izuku asked, shaking his head to clear out the rest of the fog that hung over him. His mind raced back to Dabi, but he quickly shook that away. Dabi would be fine. He was strong, and a lot older than Izuku, and Izuku couldn't hurt him if he was over there. He didn't know the older boy well, but he had been kind. "Here you go, young man." The mist man appeared next to him, with a large pastel pink hoodie with bunny ears attached. He eyed it warily, making the mist chuckle slightly. "I'm afraid it's all that the young master has that won't be entirely too large for you," he says, making the pale one murmur, and turn his back to them, scratching more. "How am I supposed to put it on?" Izuku asks, pulling at his restraints, causing them to cut into his skin even more, blood dotting his wrist, just like Toga. Izuku couldn't have one nice day at the beach. Sure, it was trash-filled, but he just wanted one thing. First, Death Arms had to show up and scare Dabi, then All Might had to make an appearance, and now this. He was so tired. Tired of everything, really. The Mist Villain nodded, as if agreeing, bending down and undoing Izuku's handcuffs. "What the hell are you doing?" the pale one asked, scrolling up and crossing his arms, annoyed. "The handcuffs are Quirk's presence. If he is our monster, those cuffs are needed." Izuku frowned. Another person he didn't even know thought he was a monster. God, he hated that word. Monster. Evil. Villain. That was society, not him. He couldn't even be kidnapped like a normal person. Izuku rubbed at his wrist, grabbing the hoodie from the man and sliding it over his body, curling his legs to his chest. I don't have a quirk, he murmured, placing his head on his knees. Handcuffs won't do anything. Shut up, brat! The pale one spat, kicking the chair Izuku sat in roughly. I'll do the talking here. Izuku sighed, looking up at the man. You really need some lotion, he murmured, rubbing at his eyes. He hadn't gotten much sleep, even after the nightmare. He kept drifting in and out of different nightmares, deciding to just fake sleep at the end. That was the wrong thing to say, as the pale one fumed, clutching the handcuffs that the mist man had turned them to dust. Cool. Rescue Quirk. Shut up! He yelled, clenching his fist around the salt. Where's your monster? He asked, glaring down at Izuku. Izuku couldn't help but roll his eyes at the word, placing his head back into his lap. I'm not a monster, he said calmly, though he couldn't help but feel his throat choke up as he talked. Kill me, or let me go, he murmured, swallowing down more tears. He just wanted to sleep. He just wanted it to end. He wasn't strong like Dobby or Hitoshi. He just wanted it to be over. The mist man spoke this time, and Izuku could feel the pale one murder something and walk away, shutting a door behind him. He could hear him scream, making him flinch slightly. Please excuse young Tomura's behavior. He's feeling a little upset right now, the man explained, walking back behind the counter. Izuku turned around in his seat to watch the mist waft with the slight air that pushed through the room. It was fascinating. Can you take me back? Izuku asked, clearing his throat. The mist man shook his head, pulling out a glass from the cupboard and placing it on the counter. I'm afraid not, young man. Tomura would like to speak to you once he calms down. Izuku nods, placing his chin on the back of the chair. You said that something had gone wrong with a plan, Izuku said, licking his dry lips. What do you mean? The mist man looked at him, his yellow eyes squinting at Izuku. You are a very observant child. Unfortunately, I cannot share that information. He turned Izuku down, before turning around to a fridge. Would you like something to drink? I can't imagine that vomit left a pleasant aftertaste. Izuku nodded, tapping his hand against the chair as he thought. Do you have any milk? The mistman nodded, pulling out a gallon of milk and pouring it into the glass he had put on the counter. Here you go, young man, he said, placing it on the counter for Izuku. Izuku turned around and hopped off the chair over the vomit and glass shards that now decorated it. Izuku walked up to the counter, grabbed the milk, and took a sip. Its soft vanilla flavor coated his younger, making him sigh. He hadn't had a good cup of milk for a while. Do you like it? The mistman asked, putting the lid back on the gallon and pasting it into the fridge. Izuku nodded, tapping his fingers against the glass. If you kidnapped me, why are you being so nice? He asked, taking another sip. The mistman adjusted his tie as he responded. We may be villains, but we are not bad hosts. He grabbed a broom and dustpan that sat behind the counter, walking out towards Izuku. He stepped so quietly that Izuku couldn't hear him. What is your quirk? He asked, watching the man begin to sweep the mess Izuku had made. He felt bad about the vomit, but he couldn't do much to help. The mistman chuckled, the tinkling of glass mixing in. I believe you figured it out already, young man. Izuku could feel his face grow hot as he sunk into the hoodie. Sorry, I know it's creepy. Nonsense, the mistman said, looking up at him. It is the mark of a great analyst. Izuku froze, his milk pressed against his bottom lip. This man didn't think he was scary. He didn't think he was a villain because of his stalker talk. He was a villain himself, but he didn't shame Izuku. Still, I'm sorry, Izuku said, taking another sip of his drink. What do I do now? The mistman finished his sweeping, dumping the dustpan in the trash, tying the bag. Tomura would like to ask you some questions once he's calmed down. Izuku flinched as the sound of something crashing came from the room Tomura had disappeared into. Though that may take some time, he joked, opening the front door and placing the trash bag outside. Izuku could run. He could run past the mistman and leave. But where would he go? Tsukauchi couldn't help. His quirk would make it hard. Hitoshi was with him, so he wasn't an option. Dobby was just going to throw him back on the streets. He shook his head, setting down his finished glass on the counter. He walked silently to the couch, sitting down and cuddling into the cushions. It wasn't soft, but it was better than the wooden chair. Do you mind if I take a nap? Izuku asked, tracing his fingers over his arm. Did his scars look as bad as Tomura's? He didn't think so, but they must have. The mistman chuckled again, shrugging his shoulders. I do not mind, young Midoriya, he says, placing a new bag into the can. Izuku tenses, feeling a shiver go down his spine at the name. Midoriya was his mom, not him. Izuku, he corrects, curling into a ball against the back of the couch. Very well, Izuku, the mistman says, standing up straight to look at Izuku. You may call me Kirigiri. Tsukauchi rubbed at his eyes, watching the classified video of the creature ripping through a man's body with ease. It was terrifying, the way that the muscles hung off the severed half. The lower half fell to the floor as the creature chewed on the man, a smile playing on its lips. The blood spattered across its maws as it licked it with its bloody tongue. The two other members tried to flee, but the creature sliced the paw at them as well, shredding through the flesh before taking bites out of each one, leaving them alive long enough to scream. It was playing with them, toying with their lives like a cat with a mouse. It turned to the mother and daughter, its pupils slitting, as it took steps after steps towards them. It wasn't walking like a wolf or animal, but instead on two legs, like that of a human. It made it more discomforting, that sense of familiarity. The child sobbed into her mother's arms, who stared at the creature with pure horror. It was an awful sight for anyone to see. The part that he kept reminding to was for when the creature coated its head to the side, like it was listening to something. It shook its head aggressively, flooding blood across the room that sizzled through the concrete. It rubbed at its ears with its large front paws, before turning and leaping through another wall. Its tail twitched behind it angrily as it leapt away from the scene, leaving a crater where its hind legs had been. The same crater that now sat on the roof of the police station. The creature showed no restraint in tearing through a member of the Anti-Mutant Society and even targeted the victims before leaving. But it had carried Hitoshi here like a kitten by the scruff. He had flicked to another screen, watching the camera that was set up on the roof, showing Hitoshi being set down gently by the creature, touching its fur like you would a family pet. Tsukauchi frowned, as Hitoshi picked up his hands to sign. The camera blocked what he said, but it was short and made the creature tip its head at Hitoshi, like a lost puppy to its owner. Why did it respond to Hitoshi in such a way? The creature sat up suddenly, its ears turning like satellite dishes before it leapt away, shaking the roof and the camera. You could barely see Hitoshi scream something, but the sound didn't come through the static. He needed to talk to Hitoshi, but the boy refused to talk, especially to Tsukauchi. Any time he stepped into the room, the boy grew silent and wouldn't speak until he left. He was hiding something. But what? Tsukauchi didn't know. He needed to find out. He needed to get this creature off the streets before it hurt anyone else. It would be safer in Tartarus than where it could hurt people. It wasn't human. No Quirk could change DNA like that. None that Tsukauchi had ever seen. Except for one of his closest friends' DNA. Toshinori's matched that of the creature. The creature, had the same DNA structure as the symbol of peace, All Might. That was horrifying. I'm sorry, what do you mean? The creature has the same... Like... Is it because, you know... Is it because, you know, like it's having to do with, like, Izuku's huge change of, like... I don't know. I can't wait to see what we got from here. It's been a while. Hi, hello. We came back to this. This is interesting. I have to double check. It's Vigilante Izuku. Yeah, it's not Villain Izuku. It's Vigilante Izuku, right? Right? No. PTSD, trans, deaf, tries, autistic, regrets nothing, sleep deprived, needs hug, has a knife, a little shit, swears, little shit, foster, homeless, vigilanteism. Yeah. The next one is, with just her mind, she controls the screen. Summary. Dabi gets help finding Izuku. Izuku is having a great time. Alright, okay. Hiragiri is a lot more nicer to Izuku. I expected that. That tends to happen a lot. Yeah. Also, guys, hi. I'm back. How's my posting say? I'm tired. I don't know if you could hear it in my voice right now. I hope you couldn't hear it throughout the recording. I'm tired. It's 10:53. It's about to be midnight. I close tomorrow, so I don't know if I'm going to be actually up for recording tomorrow. I might have some time to record between babysitting and then actually having to get to my retail job. It's the holidays. Retail job. I work at a mall food court, so you could imagine how that goes. My mall right now is closing later, and I think we're going to close even later than we normally do, because we normally close at 10. No, we normally close at 8, and we're closing at 10. So, yeah. I heard rumors. Not heard rumors, but I think we're going to start opening way earlier than we normally do. We normally open at 10. We might be opening at 8 or 9, and then we might be closing at 11 instead of 10. And then I won't be working Christmas. But Christmas Eve, I could be working. Who knows? Fingers crossed. I don't work Christmas Eve. I don't want to work Christmas Eve. I don't like working. Actually, who likes working anyways? But no, I don't want to work Christmas Eve, right? I'm fine working Christmas, but not Christmas Eve. Christmas Eve falls on a Wednesday. Ooh, hiccups. I tend to not work Wednesdays. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm having really bad hiccups. Ooh, that one was huge. That's all. I don't have much else today. Ooh. I just wonder what it's gonna go with the DNA stuff. Hopefully Izuku doesn't get hurt or anything. I did notice a little bit of like sassy and a little depressed Izuku with that comment of wanting it to just... I'm so tired. You'll get a better reaction from me at a later date. As always, my raindrops, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds. Have a wonderful day or night. Link to my Discord server and socials are down in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content, and thank you so much for watching.